Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to everybody's favorite show about plastic surgery, health, and beauty. This is Nip Talk. Today, we got a med spa extravaganza. The hosts of Behind the Dirty Needle podcast are with us today. They're going to tell us all about their show, and then we're going to go over some crazy med spa stories. And then finally, should the medical directors of med spa be regulated by law? We're going to talk about it, and it's all coming up right now.
Live from Lincoln Center in the heart of the Dallas Metroplex, this is Nip Talk. An honest and uncensored show about plastic surgery, health, beauty, and lifestyle with your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann, and your co-host, entrepreneur and social media influencer Sarah Bennett. Now it's time to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the topics everyone is talking about. It's time for Nip Talk.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us a lot. I'm your host, plastic surgeon Dr. Bruce Hermann. And with me today, Sarah is not here, but we have some special guests. This is Catherine Kivel.
Yes.
And Kristen Polido.
Yes.
With the Behind the Dirty Needle podcast. We are very excited to talk about that.
Thank you so much for having us.
And then, of course, we got Trey in the box. What's up, Trey?
Hey, how are y'all?
I did not bring our skincare products that you and I are going to try for those 4 weeks, but I'm going to do that. Are you still game, right?
I am. I'm still game.
All right, that'll be fun. We'll take some pictures, and the girls were just saying
the headbands. Yeah, the headbands.
Yeah,
Put on your
push the hair
skincare.
back.
Push the hair back. Make sure you get.
definitely. So Trey, we're gonna
get the good before
We'll get you the whole
and after.
setup.
Yes.
We'll get you the things that go around your wrist too that keep the water from
I got.
going
You
down.
guys are gonna have to text me because I will forget. I have come up with these great ideas while we're doing a show, and then
Life happens.
5 minutes pass, and I'm like, what was I talking about?
Yeah.
You guys are gonna have to text me. I know Trey won't text me. He won't be like, hey, bring those.
Trey's
skincare
praying you forget.
I know. All right. Well, listen. Hey, thank you guys so much for coming. We met through a mutual friend, and he was telling me about you guys' podcast, and of course, it's seems kind of similar to our 5 here. So thank you guys for coming on and talking about your show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, great. So I just have some questions I was going to ask you about the podcast, and of course, we can kind of go whichever way y'all want to with this, or. Because I do think there is a lot of similarities in our show, because I watched, I think, all of your episodes over the past week, and it does really seem like you guys are kind of looking out for people. Is that kind of the vibe, like looking out for people, kind of let them know warning signs, things like that?
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
So what inspired you guys to do this? I mean, obviously, did something happen that you're like, well, I think that there's a kind of a audience for a show specifically about med spas? Was there something happened that made you guys do that, or something came up with over drinks, or?
I think there's a lot of little things that have happened and some big things over time, but we just basically sat down one time and over a glass of wine, we come from opposite sides of the industry, me from the sales side, her from, she's been in the clinic
in the thick of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we got frustrated with the same things. We were frustrated with the lack of transparency, the lack of oversight, and just we're passionate about this industry, so we really want to celebrate the ones doing it right while also kind of exposing the ones that are
I know exactly what you're talking about because, although med spa is kind of part of what I do, for me it's more the plastic surgery side.
Right.
I love the industry of plastic surgery, but I do think that there is a lot of not great things that happen.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny to hear you guys say that because really that's how this show was born, was to not only educate people, but also we oftentimes will talk about bad outcomes in plastic surgery that hit the news. And of course, I always fear people might think we're trying to sensationalize it for clicks, and it's really not about that. It's about seeing something bad that happened and trying to learn from it, and so that someone else could potentially avoid that.
so you don't end up like that person.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's all about education and protection. And so you said you're in this, so you were a rep?
Yeah, so my background's in pharmaceutical and medical device sales, and then I was in aesthetic sales, worked for one of the big companies, so saw the training, given by the company on the other side, and then she was conversely in the clinic side. And
You were director of one, or manager?
Yeah, so practice management, but I started way back 20 years ago as a licensed.
The early days.
Yeah, the early days, dinosaur. As a licensed esthetician.
I was there too. Yeah.
So I was in the room. I was doing all the treatments, doing all the things.
You've seen it all then.
Yes, and then I just kind of progressed to management, training, and then, corporate level management and leadership. So I've seen a lot, and I think that's really motivated me to want to talk about some of the things that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, and so would you say the main focus of your show is just hitting topics in general about med spas, or are you more diving into the kind of safety issues, or just haven't been defined yet?
A little bit of all of the above, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely diving deep into some of the things that, are kind of taboo. Like, do we hire based on how somebody looks?
Oh, right. Yeah. It's funny you say that because, being on the side of it as the medical director, I don't think a whole lot about that things, but in the past when we've been hiring, like you'll hear the phrase, they look the part. Have you guys ever heard that?
Yeah.
They'll say, what are they like? Well, they look the part, and it's just kind of code for, well put
attractive,
together. But I mean, it makes a difference, I think. I think if I was going and having services done, someone that looks sharp would be important to me.
It's human nature.
Yeah, it is
It
human
is,
nature.
Yeah.
So, the name is great, and it's kind of bold. Like, what does that mean to y'all? Or, I mean, I can kind of guess, but I mean, what do you guys think that name means? Behind the dirty needle.
It's definitely provocative, and it's supposed to get people to say, what?
Yeah.
Nothing in med spa should be dirty.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But there is, and it's kind of a metaphor, if you will.
Yeah.
We thought it was hilarious and shocking, and if anything, the name would probably get people to say, what are they going to talk about?
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely trying to out some of the things that nobody wants to talk about in the aesthetic world.
And it's kind of a double meaning too, because there's people in the industry too that look like they're polished and put together and clean and have good intentions, and that's not always the case. So it's kind of about exposing the bad actors too, and celebrating those who are doing it right.
Absolutely.
It is a very clever name. I like it. Yeah, and in fact, I thought a lot about what we'd call this, and I was like, taku, that's clever.
Yeah,
but
that's
think
fantastic.
Yours has got like more like deep meaning though. Like mine's kind of funny, but yours is, I mean, it's kind of like.
We tried to make it salacious.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Well, I mean, I kind of know where you guys are probably going to go with this one, just based on the conversations we've already had. But do you believe it's common that there is oftentimes med spas that work without proper oversight or proper training? Is that? I mean, how common do you think it is?
I have yet to ever meet some medical directors that I was, in charge of their offices, meaning like they were, like hired to do multiple locations in a corporate setting. So I have yet to meet some of those people. I knew their name, talked to them on the phone.
Meaning like they just were hands off. They were just a name on a piece of paper.
They were just getting a paycheck, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and I do think that that's an issue, and we'll kind of talk more about that because we're going to do a whole segment about medical directors. But yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm in the industry. We have a med spa, at my facility, and it's kind of newer. We just opened in the past year, a little over a year, but we've been doing the services for 15 years. And so we're familiar with, the places around, and you hear stories, and, they're not always good. Some of them are kind of scary, to be honest.
Very scary,
Or you get patients that come in that,
you
will
have to
say
fix things. Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, like what's going on? But we'll dive into that a little bit more. Do you think there's any common misconceptions the public might have about med spas? I think that everybody kind of has an idea what the med spas are, but you guys are definitely deep into this. Are there common misconceptions?
Yeah. I would say the medical part of med spa is kind of a common misconception. But sometimes it's not as medical as you'd think. And the person, behind the white coat or holding the needle isn't always qualified to, be performing that treatment. And it's kind of hard when you're a consumer and you're not, like we've been in the industry for a while. It's hard to know which of those are bad actors and which ones are.
It's hard for us to know in the industry.
It is, yes.
Who's good and who's not. So I feel like the patients would have no idea.
Right. And just because a med spa looks beautiful, the injector looks beautiful, does not mean that they take safety in mind at all.
They might still have dirty needles.
They have dirty needles. That's
there
right.
You go.
And we find that in the plastic surgery world, because one of the things that really irks me about our specialty is you have non-plastic surgeons doing plastic surgery because the laws are just so grossly unregulated. And I always talk about how you can't just judge by someone's webpage whether or not
Right.
they're legit, you know, and unfortunately it's so complicated to know what is legit because, you know, if I were to ask, you two might know, but if I was to ask the average person, like, what is the proper board certification for plastic surgery, most people wouldn't have any idea.
Right.
But there's like 5 or 6 different ones that people will list when they don't have the and they all sound kind of legit. So the proper one's the American Board of Plastic Surgery, but then there's the American Board of Cosmetic Surgery, which is not a recognized board. Like it exists, but it's not recognized by any facilities. And so, you know, in the med spa industry, it's the same thing. Like, how do you know, how does the average person know if this med spa is properly regulated? How do they know if this, injectors had the proper training? I mean, I'm a medical director and I have to kind of look things up.
Yeah,
So,
it's hard to know.
Well, do you think that there is any hallmarks of what makes a high quality med spa, like things you guys look for? If, like, say you were going to recommend a med spa to one of your friends in another town maybe that you're not familiar with, like, what are the things you guys look for to know that, okay, this med spa seems like they're pretty legit?
I think you just nailed one right on the head without probably even knowing it. The referral, your friend goes
Right.
here.
Exactly.
So, it's word of mouth is going to be the best way to find the greatest med spa out there for you. But when you walk in, it should be very organized. You should be greeted with a front desk person or somebody who's expecting you to be there. Have the paperwork, learn about the health history. So when you do your consultation, you're coming
great.
to, a voice of knowledge, but you're armed as an office with, okay, what's appropriate for this patient and what's not.
Yeah, that's really good actually, because I kind of think like, okay, I would hope that our med spa would be considered pretty legit, because I do run it. But yeah, when you come into our place, it's like a doctor's office. You sit down, you get paperwork, you fill it out. There's a consult. I'm not sure that kind of process happens at every med spa.
I think too, just, in the consultation the first time you go in, them taking their time with you, really trying to understand what your
That's so
goals are,
important. Yep.
and having it be more of a relational type of a interaction rather than just transactional. Because so many med spas will sell you their package of the month, but
Right.
really, listening to the patient, figuring out what their main concerns
Sure.
are, and tailoring a treatment plan for them is what a good med spa will do.
Yeah, and I could say that exact same statement for plastic surgery. Like, it's the same thing. If somebody's wanting to do something aesthetic, just talking to the patient is one of the most important things that you could do. And I do think it's important for med spa. I do the same thing. I still do, a fair number of consults for med spa stuff, for med spa side. And so, I kind of sit down with the patient and, I'm not a salesman, which I think my office manager probably wish I was more of. I'm just kind of like, what's bothering you? Tell me like what you're trying to, work on. And then you have that conversation and work out a plan specifically for them instead of, someone coming in and be like, okay, we're going to give you your Botox and get out of here.
Yeah.
Most providers don't want to be known
No.
as salespeople. I learned that
Yeah.
the hard way for sure.
Right.
So just fueling them the education of what you're doing tends to make them make a financial decision,
Yeah.
in the long run. So as
I
long
would
as I know
say-
you're educated, you're good.
I would say even for me in sales, I would consider what I would, like when I would talk to patients at events, it was more educational.
Yep.
And I think that kind of translates. If somebody's in the market to get something done, and it's, that's really kind of more of a natural lead into that sale anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we could probably say the opposite for this next question, but I want to ask you specifically, are there certain really big red flags that people should watch out for? Like if they go to like a new med spa, I mean,
Groupon.
obviously, I'm sorry?
Groupon.
Groupon.
Groupon. Yeah, I think that I agree with that one too, because, if your med spa is having to resort to Groupon, that's probably not good. You don't want to go to the med spa that's hard up for business.
Yeah, I've asked a lot of owners who were very adamant about having Groupon, and a lot of the motivation comes to just bringing leads through the door.
Sure.
And what my rebuttal to that every time was,
They're
is
not good
that's not the
leads.
demographic that is going to be able to sustain our business
Right.
on an ongoing way. And it was a constant battle because, Groupon's going to bring people, but they're not going to
Right.
be
Is it going to be
consistent.
the clientele that you want to have for,
Is
or
that-
is that
right.
going to be the clientele that's going to be
Right.
a continuing customer for years?
Yeah,
and years?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you had a patient that was going to go see a new injector, do you think there's specific questions that every patient should ask an injector when they're going to him for the first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's questions that I think that we should definitely ask, but ones we know patients are not going to ask. Like they're not
Right.
going to say, "Who's your medical director?" They don't probably even know that there is something like that.
They might if they watch our shows.
This is true.
They
This is
watch
why
your
we're
show,
doing
they
it.
watch our
This
show,
is
they'll know.
true. But what I hope they would naturally ask is,
Yeah.
what got you into aesthetics? Why are you an injector? What happens if something doesn't go
Yeah.
as planned?
How do you manage
Because
complications?
It's a way to find out.
Right. Did they even know like what the protocols are?
Right, or are they
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
kind of passing it off as, that's not going to happen, don't worry about it?
Right. Yeah, that's
Okay.
smart. I honestly, I do lots more plastic surgery consults, obviously, even though I still do some med spa side. But I like when patients will test me. They'll ask me stuff like,
Yeah.
"Where'd you go to school?
Yeah.
How many of these have you done?" I don't. I think some people might. I wouldn't say take offense to it, but be kind of put off by that. But to me, it means that they're involved in their care.
and they're doing their homework.
Yeah, they're doing their homework. And those patients typically will be the ones that, once you kind of gain their trust, that actually do what you want and, have good outcomes.
Yeah,
for sure.
agreed.
Where do you see the direction of your podcast? Like, do you guys have like a goal or, I know it's early and boy, it wasn't that long ago I was right where you guys are. And
Yeah.
so, but do you have kind of a direction that you guys are trending towards to or a long-term goal or?
Take over the world.
Nice, I love it. There you go.
Well, yeah. I think really we want to provoke some conversation.
Yeah.
If we can, spark some conversation, maybe instigate some change. There's some changes that need to happen in this industry.
I agree.
So hopefully we can be a catalyst for that.
Yeah.
Nice, I love it. Yeah, start
And
the
have fun at
conversation.
the same time.
At the
Yeah.
same time, because
Yeah.
it's a really fun industry.
We
It really
have
is.
fun doing it. It's kind of
Yeah.
therapeutic, honestly, for us too.
I totally feel that. I love Fridays. I get to come down to the studio, hang out with Trey and Sarah, or you guys as guests, and I really do enjoy it. Plus, it makes you just very knowledgeable about your industry.
You have to stay up to date on
Yeah,
things.
you absolutely do. Yeah. All right, the last question. So, if you had a megaphone to talk to everyone in the aesthetic industry for like 30 seconds, like patients, medical directors, the Botox people or whatever, what would you tell them? Do you have something that you'd like to kind of get across to the industry?
Yeah.
That's kind of a big question.
Do you want to go first?
For sure.
She's got lots of
I have a lot to say about that one. But,
all right, bring it.
Just give me a megaphone and I would go for days. But
really will.
one of the first things is bring the medicine back to the beauty, and remember that this is mental health that we are actually treating here as well.
Right.
And, if we could just cut the drama and the mean girls and just, the stuff
Right.
that is naturally going to expose out there to us, but it's just, come on, it's so stupid sometimes.
I've seen that there is a lot of drama in some med spas. We are a drama-free zone at our place. I won't have it. I can't tolerate it. Although it's more my office manager too. You guys haven't been to the office. I get confused who's been to the office and who
Yeah.
hasn't. But no. But anyway, yeah, she's kind of.
I would personally love to see an office that does not have some
There's
level
always
of drama.
some level
There's
of
always
drama.
something. If
We're
it's
pretty-
women,
we're pretty good right now. Like maybe there's some I don't know about. I'm gonna ask them because they always watch the show. So as soon as
Yeah.
I get back, they're gonna be like,
we
"No,
could be
there's-
really
there's
good
no drama."
actresses and actors for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a pretty good group. We actually kind of like hanging out too.
That's awesome.
That's
because-
great.
It is like we actually kind of like each other, and so yeah.
That's rare.
And going back to your question
Yeah.
about the med spas, what's a sign of a good one? I think when you walk in the door and you feel that energy, that people actually enjoy being around each other,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah,
sign.
it is a good
Because you
vibe.
can always tell when you walk
Yeah.
into like a toxic work environment.
right.
Right.
You can always
and
tell,
that
right?
does exist in this
Oh,
industry.
more often than
Yeah.
not.
More often than not, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, listen, if people want to find you guys' podcast, I assume it's on all platforms.
All the things, yes.
Yeah, and so they just look up Behind the Dirty Needle, or is there a certain
Yes.
address? Yes, Behind
Behind the Dirty Needle. We're on Spotify,
Yeah.
Apple, all the places.
Well, I actually watched all you guys' episodes in the past week and really did enjoy them. So I definitely encourage any of our listeners. Med spa is really hot these days, and these girls are talking about the things that a lot of people are not talking about, and also, like we do on this show, educating people. So please stop by their YouTube channel and
Yeah.
Spotify and all that, and give them a listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
all right,
you.
cool.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving through our med spa extravaganza, we were kind of talking about this earlier in the week. Crazy med spa stories. Yeah, I mean, in this industry, you do hear some pretty wild stuff, and in the wildest ones, you'll see in the news. And we've actually we've had several stories over the past few years related specifically to med spas. So I thought we'd kind of recap some of the craziest ones. These are some of the ones that you guys sent us. So I think you guys are going to be familiar. So this one happened, this is the worst one I know of. So I'm sure you guys have heard of this. This is the one that happened in July of 2023. Wortham, Texas, a patient named Jennifer Cleveland went to the Lux Medical Spa to get some IV therapy.
Yeah.
And so we actually did a segment on this in the past, but I'll kind of recap it. So they started the IV infusion therapy, and shortly after it started, she went into cardiac arrest. And they did do the right thing and called 911. EMS was sent out, but unfortunately, she did not survive. And long story short, what happened, I'm sure you guys probably remember, is that the IV fluids actually had TPN electrolytes in them. Very familiar with TPN. I was trauma critical care for plastic, so TPN is like what you give people when they're in a coma. It's like the through the vein feeding, but it also has potassium in it. And so if you bomb somebody with TPN, because it's supposed to be given over super long periods of time, but if you give it to them over short periods of time, that potassium can stop your heart. And that's what happened. We know it now. At the time, we were kind of speculating when I was doing this segment, but and there's some more crazy. Do you guys remember this one? Because there was more crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So the medical director was an anesthesiologist who was 110 miles away.
That's not weird. What's weird about that?
It terrified me.
It's so common.
That's right down the street.
I mean, that's so common.
And the wild thing was, is he went there the very first day it opened, and I think he'd only been there one other time.
Oh, that's shocking.
Before this went down.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. It's just not how we do our business.
Which is fantastic. That's
you.
not how you should do your business.
Yeah. Right. No,
Exactly.
I agree. And yeah, we're gonna deep dive in that a little bit later. But yeah, he ended up losing his license, which I think was a little bit of a wake up call to some of these doctors that might be racking up these medical director fees. When
crazy.
I mean, this is just a gross negligence. I mean, giving someone TPN instead of IV fluids. I mean, I don't know, you guys have probably never seen TPN. It looks kind of like milk. Like it doesn't look like IV fluids. Yeah, it's not clear. Like, just how this happened, how they ordered it.
Well, the person who administered it, I don't believe was even a medical assistant or anything.
Yeah, they didn't have any type of official medical training. Like everything about this was just terrible.
It was wrong.
Yeah, it was just really bad.
Oh my gosh.
And then you guys sent me this one. This one just happened this month in Houston. The police arrested a med spa owner for practicing without a license. So someone named Hermann, who was claiming to be a doctor, saying I'm a doctor, but apparently they weren't a doctor.
She just had a white coat.
Yeah, she just had a white coat.
That
Probably
doesn't make you a doctor.
got off eBay. And one of her patients said that they got disfigured after treatment punctured a nerve, and she got a facial infection. She got arrested.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're impersonating a doctor, I mean, obviously that's crime. I just don't know how people think that they're going to get away with that long term.
Yeah, it's such a disrespect to the people who are doing it right too.
I think there's such lack of regulation. I mean, like we were talking, she's never had one of her clinics, be audited or,
I've never seen state board as an esthetician in a spa, just like regular day spas. And I've never seen, the Texas Medical Board ever come in, ever call, nothing.
So no one's checking. So that's, until something like this happens, unfortunately, those people are going to slide under the...
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because, as you guys probably know, there was a law that came up about that first story, which we'll talk about in the next one. Yeah.
Yep.
And then let's see, there was another story out of Houston where there was a med spa owner who also didn't have a license and was using counterfeit products.
Yes.
Which I didn't know that was a thing until...
Oh, it's such a thing, yes.
I didn't know that because obviously we're buying legit products, but then we did a segment over counterfeit Botox.
There's a big stink about that over the summer, I think. There was a bunch of cases of counterfeit Botox and people getting... They got botulism toxin.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. That was one of the segments that we did where I learned that that's even a thing. It's like, where does that even come from? Like, is that...
Temu. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I don't know where they get it, but it's coming from somewhere and it's not legit.
Yeah, and I was really interested just from like the medical aspect of like, what was it about that botulism? Because Botox is botulism toxin, but like, why was the counterfeit causing people to actually have botulism toxin. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. I never
Yeah.
found the answer.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird, right? I mean, doesn't that, it doesn't, I mean, you guys are in this shit.
I do know that, the manufacturers of Botox, the process by which everything is made, I mean, they refilter the air in there so many times per minute. I mean, the standard of excellence is the bar set high. There's a
Right.
reason why you're paying primo bucks for Botox.
Yeah, and people always want to, like,
So-
poo-poo the pharmaceutical industry, but I mean, when it comes to,
when it comes to that kind of stuff, it matters.
yeah, when it comes down to making the product, like, they're the best in the world. I mean, they are. I mean, it's just, just a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which I stumped you guys in, or you hadn't heard about this, and this one was crazy. So in New Mexico, there was a med spa doing vampire facials. So, basically harvesting the blood, spinning it, and then reinjecting it. But they were not disposing of the disposable equipment, and they were reusing it. And a bunch of their patients got HIV because they had an HIV positive patient that came for a vampire facial, and then that contaminated blood got into a bunch of, I can't remember if it was the syringe or maybe the vial, but it was something they should be throwing away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they weren't, and then a bunch of the patients got HIV.
That's terrible.
This is horrible, right?
That's
It's
the
crazy.
So
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I hope that our med spa is never the focus of a crazy story that some podcast
Yes,
does.
let's not end up on botched.
We
Okay?
do, we do try. Yeah, I don't want to be on that show either.
Yeah.
We do try and do it by the book, which, as we talked about, is not always how it's done out there.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, I'm coming by because I want to see the no drama thing.
You should come by
Yeah.
anytime. Yeah, you guys can come by. Where are you guys in the metro? Central?
Like, yeah, McKinney,
Oh,
Plano
okay. We're
area.
in Denton, so it's
Yeah.
not too far. Yeah, you'll have to come by sometime.
Perfect.
Road trip.
Road trip.
Road tripping it.
Yeah.
All right, so last segment, which I actually excited to talk about this one because this is one that really kind of irks me. And this is a segment about if we need to have laws specifically for med spa directors and or for the regulation of med spas. And we kind of all agree that probably should be a thing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
This is really one of my pet peeves about the whole industry because I said my med spa is kind of new, but we've been doing med spa services for 15 years. And, I know that there are injectors out there who have a director who I personally know, and I personally know that they know absolutely zero about anything aesthetics. Like,
Yes.
they've never injected Botox in their life. They wouldn't know the first thing about
They
aesthetics.
probably don't even know how to dilute it,
They'd have no idea. No, absolutely no idea. And yet, these people are the overseers of these injectors, which is wild to think about. I think a lot of patients probably have no idea
No.
that that's happening.
And what's crazy is we would never want that in a different specialty of medicine.
Right.
Like, so why does it?
Yeah, why does it exist here?
It's just so frustrating.
Well, I will tell you, having worked in a few states as a doctor, in training, this is the only place I've been in, private practices here in Texas, but, I worked in Kentucky and Tennessee and Michigan. Texas laws are kind of the Wild West.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, to me, it's I would say medicine is not regulated enough in Texas. Like, it's
Agreed.
too lax because you get things like that, or the one that I always talk about in our industry is you get an internal medicine doctor doing Brazilian butt lifts in their office, and it's not really against the law,
Yeah.
although it should be.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the laws do vary by state to state. So in Texas, it says a licensed physician must serve as the medical director of the med spa, overseeing all medical procedures and ensuring compliance to state regulations. But it doesn't say what specialty they need to be, or if they even know what the treatments are, or if they've had any training in the treatments.
And I'm curious, is there a limit to how many med spas they can oversee? Because I haven't seen that.
Don't think so.
I had one medical director who had like 30 in one zip code.
30
And I
in
couldn't
one
pick him
zip
out of the
code.
lineup if my life depended on it. So,
At that point where, somebody who maybe not has a great background in aesthetics and then they're trying to oversee all these, what's the even point of having a medical director? It's just a legal formality
exactly.
at that point. There's
Yeah.
zero patient protection that's happening
Right.
from that.
It's not being taken seriously.
No.
So,
Yeah, and so, I just don't understand it because, I'm in my med spa all the time because my surgery practice is there. And so either I'm doing my surgery practice office or I stop by all the time just to go stop in, see what's going on, or pick stuff up. And you know, they're always like talking to me about patients, or hey, can you see this patient? Or I have the patient that wants this. What do you think about it? I just wonder what happens in med spas where they don't have that resource.
All kinds of things.
They push them towards a treatment that they don't know if it's really right for them. Honestly, I mean, most of these med spas are just out to make money, unfortunately.
Yes. There's a lot of pressure to make money.
You know, the ultimate treatment plan for them is whatever is gonna, you know, whatever's gonna make you the most commission. Yeah, it's sad, but it's very true. It's not ethical.
It's just, I mean, the whole aesthetics industry, just like the plastic surgery industry, I mean, it's sketchy. I mean, you know, it's why I kind of do the show, and why I'm sure why you guys do y'all shows, to kind of educate people and avoid that. So, do we need a law? Well, there was a law proposed, House Bill 3749. I know you guys know about it because we were talking about it. And this is due to that patient that died. Jennifer's law.
Bill,
Yeah, I forgot her name already. Jennifer
Cleveland?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very good.
Good memory.
So I was just going to kind of recap this one. It says medical director must have training in cosmetic medical procedures. I do think that that's good. Physician oversight, they have to conduct the initial patient assessments and develop written treatment plans.
That's a little strict.
That one's pretty strict. Like that will, I think probably what will happen is that might either get taken out or might be the reason that the bill fails.
Because in every other industry, you know, nurse practitioners and physician's assistants, they can go in, they can do the initial good faith exam, they can create a treatment plan. So it's like, why would aesthetics be different?
Right.
I don't think it's the mid levels or the PAs and NPs where the issue really lies. I think it's more with the unlicensed individuals.
My question is, who's writing these? Who is bringing these to the table?
Who brought this law to the table? Oh, I forgot their name. It was a specific person, and you know, it's probably a committee that come up with these. I wish I had the answer to your question. I don't. But that one was a little over stringent, and you know, this is kind of as much as I like to gripe about my industry, I like to gripe about the government too. Like this is kind of classic government. Hey, here's a problem. Let's just make it not better or make it worse. I mean, if this actually passed, what would happen is, if it was actually enforced, most med spas would probably go out of business.
Yeah, correct.
Because you know, you'd have to be able to pay a doctor enough to be there full time, which is not going to happen.
And they have to see all the new patients, consultations.
Yeah, there's no way. Or it would just be ignored, you know, and then the state would have to decide, are we going to try to enforce this? But it would be tough to enforce it with, you know, 10 million med spas. And do you guys know how many med spas are in Texas?
Oh my gosh.
Too many?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Way too many.
That's the only thing I like about this potential.
It could like weed out some of the.
It could definitely not make it the Starbucks of.
Right.
I don't know that any of the proposed there's several bills out there right now. I don't know that any of them really address the heart of the issue.
Right.
But I think one thing that really should be looked at is how many med spas medical director can oversee, because
I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, because at the point that you have 30, I mean,
in one zip code, that was just in my territory.
There's no way that you could be overseeing all that.
No.
You're just literally putting your name on a piece of paper, which does happen.
You're pimping out your medical license is what you're doing at that point.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Real quick, Dr. Herman.
Yeah.
So we have a comment.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah. From
is it a slam? Are they like?
Oh gosh.
No,
are they trolling me? Oh,
no, not at all.
I like that when they slam me. Those are fun. So it's a real comment. I'm ready.
Yeah. So they said, I don't understand how MPs can serve as medical directors for med spas. I have seen med spas online that list MPs as the medical director,
I don't think they could either.
but they have to work under the supervision of a physician. And that was Cindy.
I think the Texas law says that it has to be an MD or DO.
Yes.
I don't know. Now, maybe there's some loophole where an NP could serve it, but they still would have to have
They still have to have the oversight by a medical
they still have to have the
director.
oversight. They can have their own business, own place, and stuff like that, but they would need a medical director over
That's
them.
crazy. If there is a med spa that says their medical director is an NP, then they're in violation of law, which I'm sure happens. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, there's med spas I think that probably don't have medical directors.
Right.
I'm sure that exists, like
Yes.
that where somebody leaves and they just kind of keep going, and for 6 months they probably don't have the medical director at all.
I've seen that happen.
You're supposed to have it posted, you know.
Yes, there's a law that passed in January where you have to have the medical director's license number and the where to write, this
Complaints
board of
and all
complaints.
that.
Yeah.
I assume we have that, although I'm gonna have to double check.
They want it in every patient area.
Yep.
Really? I'm gonna double check that.
Yeah.
Yep.
There has to be availability of the physician for a timely response. So they're trying to cut down on the distance, which I think is good. There are non-physician provider restrictions, meaning there has to be more supervision over them. And then they are trying to have training requirements for everyone involved.
Yes, I think that would be great.
Yeah. So I do think
Excellent.
that the House Bill 3749 overall is good. The one where a physician has to do every consult's a little bit
Yeah,
rough.
I think that's
They're not going to have us. That's going to be their full-time job then,
Yeah.
because they can't
Right.
go
Yeah.
and
You
do
have to be there all
what
the
their
time.
primary. Yeah.
I can't see the law passing as it is, but even if like a version of it passes,
Yeah.
I mean, any regulation is better than what we have now, which is no
Yes.
regulation.
Right.
I mean, there's
Right.
really no regulation of this industry in
There's
Texas.
not.
Which is, is bad.
That's why we have a podcast.
Yeah, that's what. Well, yeah, I guess if this law passes, maybe we won't have our podcast.
We'll just have to
lots to
change it
talk
up a little
about.
bit.
yeah.
The clean needles.
Yeah.
Behind the
Sanitized.
Talk about all happy stories.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank
Really do
you.
appreciate it. And I'll definitely be following you guys' podcast. I'm interested to
Thank
see
you.
like
Yeah.
where it goes and interested to see you guys grow and kind of take off.
Thanks
We'll
for
have
the
you come on our
collab.
podcast.
Yes.
I'd love to anytime. Yeah, absolutely. Just hit me up. So
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for leaving comments. If you have anything that you want us to talk about, let us know and we'll talk about it on the next episode of Nip Talk. Bye.